Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Jared Isaacman. You probably remember him from the Inspiration 4 mission, the first all-civilian mission to low Earth orbit, when he gave away 3 seats, which is incredibly generous, and raised more than $240 million for St. Jude Children's Hospital. Well, he's not done yet. As a matter of fact, he just announced 3 more missions for a new program called Polaris. So, let's see what he's up to. Jared, congratulations. It sounds like you're a bit addicted to space as you announced some exciting new space missions today. Give us a rundown here on what Polaris is.
Sure, and great to finally connect. I don't think we've had a chance to do that throughout the previous mission. So
just at, like press conferences quick. So yeah, it's a pleasure to finally see you.
Well, I appreciate your work. But yeah, so really, I mean, the last 18 months, as you know incredibly well, has been just such an exciting time in human and commercial space exploration. I mean, so much has been accomplished, and really, what we're trying to do with the Polaris program is build on some of that momentum by embarking on a series of tech demonstration missions, building blocks, if you will, that will ultimately culminate in the first crewed launch of Starship. So the first mission, Polaris Dawn, which we went into a little bit more specifics today, has a number of interesting objectives. So we're endeavoring to fly in the highest Earth orbit ever flown, so surpassing the Gemini record, and going obviously farther into space since humans last walked on the moon. Now, that's more than just a record, as mentioned earlier. There's an awful lot we can learn, getting reasonably close to the Van Allen radiation belts. Ideally develop countermeasures for future long-duration space flights, especially when you start thinking that, with Starship coming online, Mars can be within our reach. The second objective is we will do a commercial EVA. So we're going to test out a new generation suit that will be an evolution off of the, sexy-looking IVA suit that most people are familiar with that SpaceX develops. And the idea there is it's actually not just suit design, but even the kind of pre-breathe protocol that goes into it. So, as you know, it's not quite like the movies where you just kind of clip your helmet on and run outside. It's actually quite a process in advance. But if you're going to have thousands, tens of thousands of people on the moon or Mars, you're probably not going to want to have a 24-hour type pre-breathe protocol, if people are going out and working in space every day. So there's 2 elements to that besides suit design, and we also think we'll be able to incorporate some other interesting tech demo as a component of the EVA, but that's for later. And then the third objective is to test out Starlink, laser-based communication. So if we're going to have low latency, high bandwidth type communication coming off of the moon and Mars, you're going to need to do that with lasers. And even with all that, you got to wait 15 minutes for each way at best. So testing that out in low Earth orbit to inform future evolutionary upgrades for the technology is pretty important. We also like it because it coincides with our Earth cause that we're very passionate about too, which is a continuation of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital fundraising awareness, but now we're looking at their global health initiative specifically. And their objective is to raise childhood cancer survival rates across the world. And one way to do that, if you don't have a St. Jude Research Hospital in every single country, is through telemedicine and satellite-based communication. And then we've got 5 days on orbit. So as you saw in the press release, we've partnered with a number of institutions in order to round out a pretty intensive research component to the mission. So
right. So that's Polaris Dawn. That's the first of 3. Is going to have all of these objectives, which are pretty substantial objectives. I mean, this is already taking a pretty big evolutionary jump over Inspiration 4 already, which was in itself groundbreaking, but you're adding a lot of elements here to this one. So what's in store for potentially Mission 2 and Mission 3 while we're kind of doing an overview here?
I mean, Mission 3 will be the first crewed flight of Starship, so we know that. And while we have a lot of good things that we've discussed, interesting ideas around Mission 2, a lot of it is going to be informed with what we learned from Polaris Dawn, and also what SpaceX learns from all the testing they're going to be doing in Starbase. So, they do have a number of uncrewed flights. They'll be putting Starlinks up with Starships. They're going to put payload up for that. So the things that they can learn through, uncrewed flights is great. And the ones that they think will, there'll be more benefit if we were able to gather some data from a crewed mission, will inevitably wind up on the second Polaris mission.
Yeah. So let's jump again back to the third one with Starship. Is it kind of to be determined yet, or are you potentially launching and landing on Starship, or are you going to potentially be meeting up with it in orbit? Do you have any idea on that yet?
The third mission will be a crewed ascent, low Earth orbit mission, and a re-entry all on Starship.
Really? Okay. So I didn't realize that. For some reason, I was thinking you were going to be potentially docking using Falcon to Starship, but you're talking full-blown launch to landing Starship mission, huh?
And what a great idea, though. The third mission will be a full Starship mission from launch all the way through re-entry and touchdown.
That's awesome. Okay, so Polaris makes me think of North Star. Are you thinking at all about having the second mission be some kind of polar orbit or highly inclined orbit that would actually go over the poles for the first time in human spaceflight? Is that at all a capability or any kind of thought?
I think that, first of all, I think that's very interesting, but, we're, for sure, the second mission is going to be very focused on getting greater comfort on the ultimate third mission, which is, first crewed flight of Starship. So very much what we learned from Polaris Dawn and also what they learned in Starbase is what's going to inform that second mission, but I would expect it to be a mission designed to de-risk the third mission.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That's still very exciting. But on that note of testing things and things, you're talking obviously about Starlink being such an important aspect of the very first one, using laser communication and all the new upgrades to Starlink. Is that going to be something as far as just even outreach on the mission? Are you hoping to be able to include more live streaming with that new capability, with the increased bandwidth, having better connectivity? Is that one way you're hoping to kind of bring this down to the average person and help raise awareness?
Yeah, yes, for sure. I mean, I think that first communication is going to be, really, and it should be really impactful, and hopefully, serve in a unifying way towards what we can accomplish in space and also here on Earth. But I mean, it has so much of just an operational benefit to the mission. So, on Inspiration 4, we only had comm coverage about 80% of the duration of the mission. I know there was a lot of critiques of why we didn't have more live streams going similar to NASA missions. And that's because, the TDRS network is a government asset. And we wouldn't be the same priority as maybe, the space station or a NASA mission on that. When you incorporate Starlink into it, it opens up a lot more windows, considerably more, to provide high resolution connectivity back to Earth. And I do think that imagery is actually fulfills what should be an important component to every human space mission, which is the inspirational nature of it.
Absolutely. So I picture a really high quality, at least 1080, maybe 4K, downlinking and getting some really good images of you guys floating around this time in the Dragon capsule. And I think that stuff does matter, like you said. That's a pretty key component to having bringing the people along with you for these missions as well.
I agree completely.
Yeah, and to that that kind of makes me think of speaking of bringing people along with you. I remember I believe your wife Monica, when you got done with Inspiration 4, said something along the lines of, "Well, thank God that's done." How's she feeling about this new set of missions? Has she kind of like gotten re-excited about it, or how's she feeling?
Yeah, the ban on future space missions, that was not actually my wife. The subtitle was incorrect on that. That was my mother, and fortunately my wife's opinion matters way more. And we've been together for so long. She's seen me grow throughout my entire aviation career. I have no doubt she knew that when we came back from Inspiration 4, it would likely not be the last mission. And she's incredibly supportive. My kids are charged up about it. They want me to bring back more aliens. So
that's incredible. How would she feel if you obviously you're a huge fan of spaceflight in general, and with everything that SpaceX is working on, what are your thoughts on Mars, and what do you think her thoughts would be on you potentially going to Mars if that's something you wanted to do? Do you want to go to Mars?
Yeah, so I think what would be I think the best way, the first Mars mission has to be launched with an incredibly high confidence of success, including a return back to Earth. I think anyone who believes that it's totally okay to just send like a one-way mission and think it'll all work itself out is just totally not understanding what the objective is of making life multiplanetary. I'm quite sure that my wife, if she knew that there was, again, very high confidence of success in a return, she'd be supportive of it. But there's a lot that needs to be accomplished before that, including getting the first, crewed starship into low Earth orbit. I'm really fortunate to be able to play a part in that objective.
Yeah. So you obviously have piloted Starship as well as many other vehicles. What is it like to actually, or not Starship, sorry, Dragon? What's it like to actually pilot the Dragon capsule, as far as just purely from a piloting experience, using the touch screen and things like that? Is it intuitive? Is it what's it like to fly a spacecraft?
Well, first of all, it has an incredible autopilot, thanks to a lot of brilliant people here at SpaceX. We throughout our training in the simulator, there was some sort of an emergency going off every 30 seconds. Thanks to Sarah. So it's just this constant chaos to train for the worst. And then in reality, you get in the vehicle in space and you don't hear any of those alerts at all. And it works incredibly well. I will say navigating all the touchscreens and such is super intuitive. It's just like any modern glass cockpit in an aircraft. But the fact that it works so well, just frees up everyone in the crew to, rest easy and think about all the other objectives you're trying to accomplish while you're on orbit. And I have no doubt they're going to take everything that they've learned that made Dragon such a successful, vehicle to operate and bring it right over to Starship. Gotcha.
So I guess that brings up the question, did you actually pilot Dragon at all on orbit?
Yeah, I guess what would be the definition of it all. So, typically,
like, did you manually control Dragon at some point?
You manually put in a lot of inputs into Dragon, and you certainly did in the simulators, but I would say for like the entire on-orbit time, Dragon did its thing incredibly well. And most of what your training is about contingencies if what it's supposed to do doesn't happen.
So really, it's a testament again to the robustness and how smoothly operating the Dragon is, that it just does its job and that you don't have to be doing anything, and that's kind of the point.
Yeah, I would liken it very much to any of the business jets that I've flown with, like thousands of hours. You're putting the autopilot on in cruise, and it's taking you all the way there. In fact, pretty much every modern commercial airliner will land right on the runway for you if it needs to. So there's tons of similarities there, but that doesn't mean that you don't still go through your recurrent training every 6 months about the Apollo 13 like failures when everything stops working. It just that doesn't typically happen on mission, and it certainly didn't with Inspiration 4. I don't expect it to on any of the players missions. But we'll be well prepared.
And when you guys were planning, I remember seeing a little snippet. Obviously you had brought up the idea of going higher than ever before, but Polaris Dawn will be taking that to a lot higher orbit yet. If you're going to be breaking, the Gemini record, you're going to be over almost like 1,500 kilometers or something. You're going to be a ways up there. Is that going to be a circular 1,500 kilometer orbit, or is it elliptical? Can you tell us how far you are in that mission planning process?
Yeah, when we're saying breaking the Gemini record, you can assume you're in that certainly above 1,360 kilometers, and I expect similar to the Gemini record, it will also be like a highly elliptical orbit. But worth pointing out, this is really hard to do. As you know, the higher you go up, obviously you've got even more energy to take out, and it obviously takes away some various windows for when you could come home under less than ideal circumstances. So it does create a lot of good and interesting challenges here for the engineers at SpaceX, because you're going to have to be thinking about those same things when you're even farther out, when you're out at the moon, and obviously in even more ambitious long duration space missions that are surely to come. So it's a great opportunity to learn an awful lot, whether it's informing vehicle design or software updates, ways to come home with certain contingencies, as well as all the research we're going to do on board, which will primarily be geared towards, the radiation exposure, which also has vehicle implications. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I imagine in my head, I feel like an elliptical orbit would actually be a really, really cool experience to be on board, because you'll get a kind of changing view of the Earth. You'll get that perspective from a little bit further away and then kind of zoom back in. That's a pretty substantial if you're going from low Earth orbit up to a little bit, quite a bit higher, 1,300 plus. That's people I remember on Hubble, when the astronauts that deployed Hubble and serviced Hubble would all mention how much substantially higher it felt to be at that orbit compared to ISS orbit. And you experienced that as well on Inspiration 4. Is it a substantial difference, I guess, at even that altitude difference?
It absolutely is. I'm telling you, just as you said, I'm incredibly excited to see what this is going to look like. There was a huge difference. So as you recall, I mean, with Inspiration 4, our peak apogee was about 590 kilometers. We slowly brought ourselves, phased our way back down prior to reentry, and there's a huge difference between what you can see. Obviously, we also had the benefit of unbelievable window in the cupola at near 600 kilometers versus for example the ISS altitude. So based on what I understand our target orbit is going to look like, it's going to be a heck of a swing between peak apogee and perigee. We'll try and capture some good imagery and send it home.
Yeah. So speaking of the cupola too, that will not actually be on Polaris Dawn, correct? Because you'll need the actual hatch mechanism to be able to do the EVA. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's probably a bit of a bummer, but the EVA will probably make it much worth it, I assume.
Oh yeah, for sure. Knowing you're going to be able to make some contributions to what will ultimately drive future space exploration missions. I mean, that's why we want to be here and do this. So, yeah, well, it'll be okay not to have the window for this mission.
On that, I have two more questions, quick, and then I'll let you get. I know you got a lot going on here today with all this stuff, but those EVA suits, though, you mentioned that it's going to be kind of a variation of the IVA suit or some kind of evolution of it. It sounds like in the typical SpaceX fashion, it kind of sounds like this is an evolutionary process, kind of do the next thing and iterate on that. So tell us as much as you know about what the suit will likely be.
Yep, for sure. Well, first, all four of us will be wearing exactly the same suit. And
okay.
Because there's going to be substantial enhancements to this from a mobility perspective, dexterity in the fingers, but also redundancies. So keep in mind, the current IVA suit is a last line of defense in the case of either a fire or a full depress. This will no longer be the last line. You have to build in,
you have to rely on it.
You're intentionally putting yourself in that environment. So you're going to want to have, the suit's going to have a lot of redundancies from what we flew previously on Inspiration 4. So all four of us will have that. We do anticipate 2 crew members will conduct the EVA. There's a lot of training that's going to go into it. And then we are looking at different things, whether it's from a payload or technology perspective to incorporate during the EVA. So all of that will ultimately inform, who's getting out there. But for sure, I mean, all four of us, there is no airlock, so it'll be vented down to vacuum. We have to be able to, to be able to work, function, and perform under those circumstances. That's why all four need the same suit.
And then the cabin will be repressed after EVA, or is it going to be something where you do that right before reentry, or I assume repressed, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, okay, just like Gemini.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then one last question here for you, and then I'll let you get out of here. What are you most looking forward to in spaceflight? I'm going to give the caveat, you can't be looking forward to your own incredible mission here. Besides that, what thing, as a spaceflight fan, because you are a huge spaceflight nerd, what thing are you looking forward to most in 2022?
Well, there is obviously a lot there. I mean, I think SpaceX has 5 Falcon Heavy launches this summer. So I've never seen one in person. I am incredibly charged up about that. And then obviously, Elon said Starship's going to get to orbit before the end of the year, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of testing that coincides with that or leads up to it. So I think between KSC and Starbase, there's going to be a lot of action. Trying to weigh it between, near term, for sure. I really want to see a Falcon Heavy launch. I think that's going to be incredible, but no doubt, and as you know already, just being in Starbase feels like a religious experience, and what they're working on there can really change everything. So I'm excited to see that progress unfold this year too.
Yeah, it's gonna be really, really, really hard to beat seeing the world's most powerful rocket ever fly. That's going to be something incredible to see. So I hope you're going to be down here for that when it does take off. I assume you will be.
Planning on it.
Do it. And we'll hopefully see you then too. So, Well, Jared, thank you so much for all your time and congratulations on Polaris. We're really, really excited to see how this thing continues to evolve and continues to inspire. And let us know if there's anything we can do here to help raise awareness. And yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Tim. Thanks for the support. And yeah, let's chat a bunch as this all unfolds.
Sounds great. All right, thanks, Jared.
Thanks, take care.
Thank you so much to Jared and your team for allowing me so much time to pick your brain on some stuff. I hope in the future we could just really sit down and nerd out over just some good old spaceflight stuff, because Jared knows his stuff. Be sure and stick around, because I've got a lot more fun, exciting things coming out here in the next few days. And we're still working on a lot of other things behind the scenes, including we're kind of continuing with some of those more basic concept ideas, like why don't rocket engines melt? How do you power a rocket engine? So we're working on a cycle types video as we speak. That's going to be amazing. And we'll do things like how do you start a rocket engine and what are orbits and all these different things. So be sure you stick around, because there's a lot more exciting stuff coming. I owe a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for helping make videos like this and everything else we do here at Everyday Astronaut possible. If you want to help me continue to do what I do and gain access to some exclusive fun things, head on over to patreon.com/everydayastronaut. And while you're online, don't forget to check out our awesome merchandise, such as this one, the RD-171 t-shirt. Super cool, along with things like our Future Martian shirt or the rest of our schematics collection, or lots of other fun stuff. You can find it over at everydayastronaut.com/shop. Thanks, everybody. That's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people.